Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm Johan, one of the co-founders of Nhost. So why don't we start by, like, if you want to put your turn your cameras on, and we just do like a waving kind of thing, and make sure we're all having a good time. So hello Sang, and if Paul, G, Jeff, Jamin, and Sub also want to do that, it's fine. We're doing it in, say, 5 seconds. So now I'm gonna prepare my screenshot. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Cool. Okay, that was the most awkward thing we're gonna do tonight. So now it's just gonna get better. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's get started. So community call, August. I think we missed last month's community call, and hopefully that will never happen again. But we've had a lot of stuff on our plates, so that we're going to share with you today. So agenda for today. So we're going to have an agenda slide. We're going to go like a quick run through about Nhost v2. Followed by some open Q&A. So while I'm going through the slides here, if you have any questions, like, feel free to write them in the chat, and we're gonna pick the questions afterwards, and we'll try to answer them as to the best of our capacity. And then we're gonna follow up that, like, the last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna have a like a podcast kind of interview with Dylan, founder of DTAT and Revtron AI. He's building his company and his product with Nhost, so that could be interesting for you to listen to. So that's kind of the setup for today. Hopefully we'll have it done in 60, like, I remember the first time we did it, I said that it's going to be done in 30 minutes, and we stayed for 90 minutes. So we'll see, but we'll go from here at least. So first thing I want to show you is the team of Nhost. So we've grown quite a lot. So we have the top left, Mrinal. I'm not sure if he's on the call at the moment, but Mrinal doing Golang and backend development. Myself doing a little bit of everything. We have Seb, also a new team member since, like, officially Monday this week, doing marketing, and also helping out with community building and all these kind of things. He will try to curate the questions here as well. Nuno, well, so Mrinal from India. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden. Seb from Sydney, so it's late for Seb at the moment. So but yeah, Nuno from the Azores outside Portugal. We have Sergey, also a new team member doing backend and infrastructure work from Berlin. Guido, he's like awkwardly look like me. We didn't find a picture of him, but he's from Argentina doing front end, and Jerry from Finland doing product design. And just like a quick slide on like going forward, we were looking to hire more people. So in these areas, so infrastructure, backend, front end, DevRel, or some other area that you might think it could be useful for us. So if this sounds interesting for you, feel free to send us an email. So we're also going to send out a community survey after this community call. Feel free, like, we have your emails, so we'll send them. Like, it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes if you want to spend the time and help us and give us feedback. That would be very helpful. So that we listen to what you folks are having on your mind. So let's go into Nhost version 2. So now I have a couple of slides here of things that are old and new, basically. So I want to give you like a sneak peek of what's going on and what's going to be in the new version 2. So the version 2 is going to be like a complete new product. Basically, it's there's a lot of, we're still doing the Postgres, still doing Azure, still doing GraphQL, but basically everything that we've learned for the last 18 months building Nhost, we are trying to fix with this version 2. So one of the things that we are changing up here is the domains. So previously we had 3 different subdomains per project, and so we had Hasura, Nhost, I think it was Nhost.app, but yeah, Hasura backend and API. So we're moving to a single subdomain and just do /GraphQL, /console, /auth, /storage, and /functions. So that's one of the updates that we're going to do. Storage. Some of you have used storage for uploading and downloading files, and then you've also used the rules.yaml file. Well, so this is the old thing. So we use the rules.yaml file to figure out rules. There was really no reference to GraphQL. Only direct access. I don't know what I meant with that actually. Oh yeah. So yeah, there is no pre-signed URL basically. So there is already only direct access to the files. We had image transformation, that was good, but there was no CDN. So that's what we're trying to fix with a new storage system, and that's going to be like a complete new storage system. So storage is going to have like all files and buckets are going to be inside your database. So that means that you can query it just like any other GraphQL query to get all the files and bucket information. That means also that you can use Hasura permissions, so no longer using rules. We have support for pre-signed URLs and also direct URLs. Same thing with image transformation. It's gonna be there as well. And maybe most prominent is it's a CDN feature. So you will be able to serve files through our CDN. And as I go through here, like if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them afterwards. So workflow. This is going to be roughly the same. So we already have a Nhost CLI. We already have a GitHub integration. But if you've ever used those, you know that they are quite. I mean, they don't. They are like very beta. Like they break sometimes. It's not very stable. And we really want to fix this for version 2, and it's super important for us to get this right. So we're rewriting the CLI. It's going to be in Go now,
Ja, kom maar aan. Ik moet even wat afronden.
Okay. And then we have, because there's going to be native Windows support for that. Same thing with the GitHub integration. It's going to stay the same. It's going to work roughly the same as it does today. You connect your GitHub repository, you push your code, we deploy it. And one of the things we want to work on as well is that you can actually use the Nhost console to manage your local environment, which is so you would use the CLI, but you could still use the Nhost console to manage your local environment via the CLI, and we'll release some more on that in the future, so that you don't. Because one of the problems right now with the CLI, for example, is you can't list your users like in a nice UI the way you can do in the Nhost console, for example. So you lose some stuff developing locally, and we don't want you to lose some stuff. It's going to be the same experience developing in like with Nhost as well as locally with our CLI. Functions is another beta feature that we've had. There's a few problems with how functions, or the custom API, we call it, how that works right now. For example, the package.json needs to, like if you want to add additional packages or npm packages to the custom API, you need to have like your own package.json inside the API folder. There is no real way to share code between the API folder and other parts of your application. And previously we deployed all of this to Google Cloud Run. So we want to fix this. Basically, we want to have the same experience as Vercel and Netlify, where you can have just one package.json in the root of your repository. You can also have a specific package.json inside the functions folder, but it's enough to have the package.json in the root of the project. And we'll use ESBuild to build every function. And it will be built into a Lambda function. that will later deploy to Lambda, and this will happen like seamlessly, automatically from our side. This also enables you to share code between different parts of your code base. So if you have some types that you use both in the front end and you also want to use it in the functions, that can be done. Or if you have some utility functions, can be used both front end and back end. Console. Here's actually a lot of work, but it might look small when we just look at this slide, but here's a lot of work. So previously there was no way, like you had to use Hasura console to manage data and GraphQL metadata. And the old console was done by me and Nuno, so 2 engineers. So but it's okay, but we can do much better. So the new console is going to be a complete new design, and we plan to basically replace the full Hasura console so that you can use our console for everything. So that means you can manage your tables, you can update your data, do anything like add event triggers, anything you can do in the Hasura console. You're going to be able to do in the Nhost console. You can still use the Hasura console. It's not like you can use both if you want. So both will be usable. And we're going to introduce something like, we're going to call it workspace. Right now you can have like your own personal projects and you can create a team, but everything in the future here is going to be workspace. So to unify everything. So you can have like your personal workspace, maybe your company's workspace, maybe a side project workspace. Yeah. SDKs. So we have currently the Nhost.js SDK. Probably a lot of you have used that one. If you're using React, you maybe used React Auth and React Apollo. What we want to do is merge everything into one package, so you don't need to worry about dependencies or multiple packages. So just a single Nhost.js. And we've tried to simplify as much as possible. So this is an example with Next.js, for example, where you would basically just have to import 2 providers. So Nhost provider and Nhost Apollo provider, for example, if you want to use Apollo. This alone will automatically enable authentication, storage, and GraphQL in your application seamlessly. So we're trying to really spend a lot of time to make it easy for you to develop here. Some small stuff. So if you use Hasura right now and you don't modify like the what is it called, GraphQL field, for example, maybe you use snake case in Postgres and you will see snake case in GraphQL, for example. So what we're trying to do here is actually use camel case all over the place from GraphQL up. So because camel case is kind of the de facto standard for specifically JavaScript. So we'll use snake case in Postgres, but camel case with GraphQL and up. So, and we will do that automatically. Currently, we don't have many Postgres extensions, but because we're moving from DigitalOcean to AWS and we're going to start using AWS RDS, there's going to be a lot of Postgres extensions. Also, with the move from AWS, we are changing a lot internally to both facilitate scaling and also give you more AWS locations like regions, for example. So I know, yeah, so we have that in place as well. And I think this is the last slide as well. So something also we're working on is integrations and marketplace, and we're starting with Stripe, and we've already tested this, and it's working quite well. And this is the power of GraphQL, really. And so we will try to make it very easy for you to connect your Nhost backend with Stripe. Basically just defining, okay, I have this table and here are all my Stripe customers, and connect those two. And so in the GraphQL API, you will be able to querying your regular Nhost GraphQL API, but then just jump to another data source. So Stripe in this example, so that you can, so you don't need to, I don't know, do multiple queries or anything. Just unify everything under GraphQL. All right. So that was, that was a lot, or a little sneak peek of what we're working on. And we plan to launch this Nhost V2 as a private beta in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And we like the people we onboard here or invite here for the first private beta, we want to like keep this as a tight group and really get feedback from you guys. So we're gonna set up like a private Discord group and schedule like a 1-hour session every week where we're like a group of 3, 4, 5 people, and we can you can give us feedback and we can talk about like what's good or what could be better or what are you struggling with, etc. So what I would ask you guys to do is, if you want to be part of this V2 private beta, feel free to go to waitlist.nhost.io or pick up. I'm not sure if I didn't even test this QR code, but I think it works. And you can sign up there with your email. So and what we're going to start doing is start doing the private beta. We're going to really work with the community and everybody who's on there, and then do like an open beta when we think it's ready, probably a few weeks after starting the private beta. All right. Yeah, that was pretty quick. So we'll do some questions. And maybe
we have 2 questions. I tried to answer them already high level, but if you want to add something to them.
Yeah, I think I'll let Seb handle this. Like maybe we can Seb, go ahead. Either unmute or just read the question out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had one question come through from Piyush, and Piyush was asking, what's the benefit of moving to AWS?
Cool. I'll let Nuno answer this question. Or maybe it already did.
Yeah, I think the question here is specifically for functions. Like the current infrastructure is all except functions deployed on DigitalOcean. And since we're moving to AWS, it makes sense to have everything there. And we considered GCP as well, but we ended up going with AWS just because it's a more mature cloud provider. And it has everything that we need for what we already have in the roadmap. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Excellent. Thanks, Piyush. The next question that we had was from Sang, and Sang was asking about the ability for different environments, dev or prod, and do I have to spawn a local host version of Nhost?
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. So this is something we are solving with the CLI. So for prod, you host everything on Nhost, and then for local development you use our CLI, and that's basically Nhost dev, and that will spawn Postgres, it will spawn Hasura, Auth, storage, functions, and a few other services to make it easy for you to develop locally. So you will have the same environment locally. Like you can sit on an airplane and develop without internet, and then we will track all database migrations. We will track metadata. So when you later push everything to GitHub and have your GitHub repository connected to Nhost, the Nhost project, we will deploy it for you. So that is sort of the workflow where we are trying to solve.
Excellent. Next question is in from AJ, and AJ wants to understand our thoughts on how we envision migrations to work. So migrations as in V1 to V2.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Updates to the API functionality.
Exactly. So the migration is it's going to be there will be some manual work because the way our new authentication server is or authentication system is going to work. So for example, we will move the users table from the public schema to the auth schema, and we will merge the users table with the accounts table. So there will be only one table keeping track of users. And we are in this position ourselves because the current version of Nhost is built on like whatever everyone here is using, and the new version is using the new version. And we haven't started transitioning, but like the way I see it is that we will run some script to migrate over the data, basically. So we'll probably have to write some custom script to push the data to the new system. It's not a one-to-one, unfortunately, because of the changes in the DB schema for authentication. Otherwise it's yeah. If you don't use authentication, it's easy.
There's like storage as well, but we will try to automate everything that we can. Data is an obvious one. You'll probably not have to care about that, but for example, the URL that Johan presented in the beginning, we currently have 3, and with the new infrastructure, you have just 1 subdomain. So that's one obvious change that you have to do on the SDK. But it should be a couple of hours of work, maybe even less. We will try to have a very descriptive playbook of the things that you need to do if you want to migrate to the new one. But it shouldn't take a long time.
Okay, no other questions at the moment in the chat window. Oh, here we go. There's another one from Sang. So any update for the React Native? Sorry if I missed anything. Last time I tried the official example, it uses the old version of Nhost.js.
Yes, so this is something we need to work on. Like the examples, some of the examples are out of date. So that's on us. We need to fix that. So both examples, and in the CLI, we're going to have templates as well. So to make it easy to get started with both the backend and the front end, with pre-configured React and React Native and all of these things. So yeah, sorry about that. We'll work harder in the future. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Sang, what do you mean by you have been doing everything wrong so far? Like it's our fault if you're doing something wrong.
Sorry?
Like you wrote that you have been doing everything wrong so far. You mean using?
Yeah. No. Like the way I use with the workflow is quite wrong because I development directly on the production, and every time I do anything, I have to delete like the lorem post or everything in order to clean.
Okay, we will try to be more diligent on the documentation for platform V2, having like proposed workflows of how you should use the platform.
Yeah, I misunderstand the CLI. I thought it was for development the Nhost itself. I didn't understand that it's used for my development.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I had a quick question. So we're moving to the new NPM module, which is Nhost/Nhost.js, right? Now, which pretty much doing your Apollo and the hooks as well. So are we focusing on React only, or that would cover other frameworks as well?
That will cover all JavaScript frameworks with the Nhost client, and then we're going to have support for Flutter as well, but that's going to be a separate package. So the Nhost JS NPM package that I showed you is going to have support for JavaScript and some extra support for React. with providers and hooks.
Right. No, I was wondering if we had to use Vue or Angular, right? Would that, just work out of the box? Or because I'm hoping, when you remove all of your React code from, the 3 packages you had and club it together at one. So I'm hoping there would be provide a React related code. So I'm not too sure if that would work, with Angular or Vue.
It should like tree shaking should take care of that. So if you don't import it, it shouldn't be in your production build.
Okay, as long as it's not specific to React, I think it should work. But yeah, just wanted to confirm.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Should we move to the interview?
Sounds good.
All right, then I will see if Dylan is here and if he's unmuted. Or
hey, Jan, I'm on.
hello, Dylan. How are you?
Good, man. Doing well.
All right, so let's see. What do I share my screen? What's going on? What's happening? I don't know. Okay, here we go. I have too many windows open. Sorry. I will do this. All right. Yeah. So welcome to the scene or to the stage, Dylan. And I've prepared some questions for you. I know that you're building. You're a community member. I've seen you a lot here, and so maybe just tell us a little bit about your story and what inspired you to get started with DTAT.
Yeah, for sure. And I like welcome to the scene more than to the stage too, Johan. That's good. No, so I'll give some context first, and then I'll give the full background story, but I'll go quickly. So we have an agency, and then we also have a product that we created in the agency itself, right? Which is relatively common for a lot of SaaS products. And so we made the agency first, and then the product came second. So the story behind that is Zach and I, who's also on the call, and is actually sitting next to me. We met each other 5 years ago at IBM. We were both in the digital strategy group, and we were working on similar projects. We didn't stay there for too long. We both were only there for 2 years, but ever since 5 years ago, we've basically been working on the same project over and over again, just in different landscapes, right? So what I mean by that is essentially when at IBM, what we would do is we would do this project. This is the first time we would do the project. It was really big scale, Fortune 500 companies. They were large data projects, really big data projects. We did it across multiple different verticals. So like aerospace, entertainment, manufacturing, and banking as well. And, there were like millions of dollars, and 80 people would come in. And my role specifically is I started mostly, we'd go and we'd do a workshop with the C-suite of their team. And then we'd name the North Star metrics for the business. So we kind of rework all their KPIs and whatnot. And then I would do all the dashboarding for that. And we'd have like a short project version with a retrospective. And then that should lead on to the larger scale project that was like generally 8 to, sometimes 36 months long. And like I said, there'd be like 80 people on it. They were just pretty inefficient, as I think you can imagine, right? So basically what we've been doing is just trying to compress that project down into a very small, bite-sized, more affordable, like faster version. And Zach and I both went into SaaS businesses after that, and then we created the agency.
Nice. Yeah, so that's a backstory.
Yeah, I may have trimmed some at the end, but we can always answer it later.
Okay, and so you have your agency and you have your product inside your agency. So maybe tell us a little bit about how did that product inside what is this product inside your agency, and how did it came about?
Yeah, no, for sure. So we started a data agency initially in Brooklyn in New York, and all of our work, like 95% of it, was all SaaS businesses. So it's just kind of like that was the vertical that was most drawn to that kind of work. A lot of times I think because there's a lot of engineers, systems thinking, a lot of like people are super familiar with data in that space, obviously. And then we started applying that methodology to go to market basically in SaaS businesses. And so we'll make a data warehouse. And then initially we were just making dashboards from the data warehouse. So you pull all the business data from all their systems of record, billing, etc., systems of action into one place, and then you can show performance of the business really comprehensively and to multiple different teams, instead of each team having to go into a system of action and kind of like getting metrics from different places. So that is the product, right? The product itself is also that project collapsed down and compressed, custom made for SaaS go to market. And then the agency stuff that we do is still that project, but generally for different use cases or verticals, like e-commerce and some like digital service area stuff like website analytics, etc.
Yeah. And the product, what's the name of the product?
Revtron.
And how did that, how did you came up with that name?
We had like a really short naming session. I think we time boxed it to like 10 or 15 minutes. Zach actually he was the one that yelled out Revtron. I think it's a mashup of like revenue and Tron, like the robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see the reference on your website.
Yeah. And then we built the brand around that, because you are kind of like, a lot of it is automation and removing friction from traditional sales teams. So it's kind of like you're empowering them, I guess. Right.
Yeah. What is your biggest learning in building Revtron's product?
Probably, honestly, it's probably that. So if you think of like a SaaS business as a machine, it's kind of like Ray Dalio style, right? Where it's a machine or a system that's designed to generate certain outputs. If you think of it like that, then go to market as a general rule, if you look at like base rates, is the least optimized from a data perspective by far. Because if you think of like product, it's far more common for product teams to be taking really good user data, A/B testing features and whatnot, and actually getting pretty advanced. And then like finance does some stuff like that. I mean, not A/B testing, but they'll automate stuff as well. And then go to market as a whole, if you're going to make a generalization, a lot of times it tends to be the most like qualitative and like they don't use it as rigorously. So obviously, as competition increases in the space, right? Because there's the most capital from basically private equity firms and venture capital firms investing in SaaS in the history of the world, I guess, right? But that also means that it's the most institutional money in SaaS startups ever, which also means that it's the most pressure on go-to-market teams to hit their numbers ever, and they're the least optimized. So they're gonna have to improve, and they are gonna have to at least match the other parts of the machines in the businesses that they're a part of.
Do you have any success stories do you want to share with us related to Revtron?
Yeah, and I think I was supposed to include. I had a point that I wanted to do on there probably, but the nice thing is, so like recently with Revtron, so Revtron's in beta, but we're in beta with basically 5 clients and close to 100 users. And the nice thing is, in the past 2 years, and it's a year and a half, we've gotten to roll it out across those 5. So to get like a good number of iterations for not having, actually gone to market, even soft launched. And every single client has over 100% year-on-year bookings growth, which is pretty impressive. And what do I mean by that? It's like the year before they did a number in new revenue, and then after we worked with them, they did over 100% more than that. And we like to use that measure because we don't want to look at their ARR base, because that ratio changes a lot, right? Like mostly based on if they have institutional money in the business. Like if it's bootstrapped, a lot of times they'll do less in bookings. Like they'll do like 10% growth because they don't have the same pressure on them. So we look at what they did last year, and then we try and get over 100%, and it's worked every time. So we're 5 for 5. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, data and learning from your actions, it works, right? It's a feedback loop. So it's kind of intuitively makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's some super impressive numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, the first time it was kind of an experiment, and it exploded and did really well. Like even if you like, if I could reference the ARR numbers, it was like kind of, we were like, I think this is going to work. And then it really worked. So then it's continued to work. Obviously there's a spectrum there, but it's pretty exciting.
That's amazing. And I know we're a lot of developers here on the call. So I think we want to know a little bit about your stack. So what does it look like? Front end, back end? What do you use?
Yeah, of course. So the front end is all React, single front end. Even from the beginning, the data warehouses are always in Postgres. And then of course, like we wanted GraphQL API so we could use React well and efficiently. And Hazura is phenomenal as well. So it's, and then, yeah, so it's pretty standard. It's the Nhost stack, and we're on Vercel as well as our CDN. So it's React, Vercel, Hazura, Postgres, and then we run all our data pipelines and all of our machine learning models on prefect.io, which is pretty nice. It's like a super Pythonic scheduling package, if you will. They're open source and they have a paid cloud version as well.
And how do you, like, you have 5 different clients. I can imagine there's a lot of data per client. Like, how do you segment the data between the clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. Another thing that's kind of awesome about Nhost is that, so like for us, all of the clients are relatively big, high growth. I mean, they're not huge, but they're sizable and high growth SaaS businesses. So they do have a ton of data, and we're constantly pulling in more data for them, right? Whether that's like triggers or event streams or like a new system that they want to have visibility into, kind of thing. And so for us, it's really nice to put them, they each go into their own project and they're segmented out that way. And so they're each in their own data warehouse too. And then we unify everything in the data warehouse with views. And that's where we build in all the business logic and then pass those standardized views to the front end or to Hazura, which then we consume and React through the GraphQL API.
Yeah, so it's quite a complex system that you have. All right, and what was important to you in thinking about how to manage the backend of your app? Like, was technology important? Was speed to market? What was important?
Yeah, so for us, we had an ideal stack, and like you have to remember too, kind of the way that we grew into the product is we started with a data warehouse in Postgres and Python, so data pipelines, and then all the modeling, right, on the clean, standardized, essentially views from the data warehouse. And then initially, and we did this for probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years even, where then we would build the dashboards in, we build the dashboards in Tableau. And so we built a ton of dashboards. And then what that did for us is it allowed us to iterate multiple times and then look at the usage data, so the views on the dashboards, and see which dashboards actually created the most value. And then those were the dashboards, and they kind of came out over time and became really obvious, and we would tweak those and keep improving them. And that's what we put into our product. And so the big thing for us was having that backend stack that we knew we wanted and getting through the auth and getting to the GraphQL on the front end as quickly as possible, which Nhost did for us pretty phenomenally, honestly. It was nice. I still remember I was searching around like late one night after, multiple sessions where we didn't have a perfect answer. And then Nhost was like the ideal optimal stack that we wanted, packaged up, pre-made for us. And then we rolled it the next day with like a test, and then we built into it and migrated everything over.
Because if I remember correctly, you had like a Postgres database in different locations. You had on DigitalOcean or somewhere else, and you built these dashboards, but they were not really connected like to a unified product that you could actually give out to customers that you maybe would expect. What happened with those dashboards? Like where are they today? Are they?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And you're exactly right too. We had different DigitalOcean droplets with Postgres instances because we always separate out the data sets by company. So those dashboards, some of them are still live. Well, actually, for every single client, we have one that's still live because we still need to build out basically like serving the certain data visualizations up on a daily basis. so they're scheduled. So until we build that feature into our own front end, we still kind of serve that out. Now, as you can imagine, that's like pretty confusing for users. So that's one of the next features we should fix. But so they're still alive, and we make them every time. It's very redundant. The other thing too, Johan, that's kind of cool is like if you do look at building into a new space of the business, you can do it in Tableau, iterate with the team, see if they actually use it. And then if they do use it, you can consider it for the product itself.
Yeah, it's a good way of, it's always good to have these kind of tools where you can learn things quickly, right? And then you can go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking about new features, what's ahead of you? What's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so the big thing, so we have like kind of like project business things, and then like actual technical and product things. And obviously the one side is actually soft launch the product, right? Revtron. So, and we're trying to design that out and make sure that we have kind of the optimal design for a soft launch. And then the more like exciting stuff is the product stuff. So Tomas, he's on the call as well. He joined relatively recently. He's the newest member officially on the team, and phenomenal machine learning engineer. And so Zach and I have built models with Tomas generally the whole time in the history of the product, but having him on board, he's pushed to production 3 ML models. So we want to, and 2 are extremely robust and 1's still in beta. So we want to start building those into the front end, right? So that we can, because right now they're running, we try and serve up the scores in various different ways, but we want to build into the front end so that users get alerting if the ML probability scores on opportunities, for example, changes, then they see alerts and whatnot. And so we need to build that in the front end, and then just also making the app just all the rest of the stuff is pretty basic stuff, just kind of making it a bit more robust. Things like the scheduling of the setting up the information flows so you can send out the data visualizations on a schedule to users.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sounds like exciting times in the like. Sounds like you have a lot of stuff on your plate. A lot of things going on. So maybe we can finish off by what would be some of the learnings, or some of, like, if you would send out a message to like new Nhost community members or developers in this space related to Nhost. What would you say to them?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us was just making, like, I think as technical people, it's really easy for us to kind of get excited by problems, you know, and it's super important that you're working on problems that matter. Like, you're not working on problems that have been solved multiple times before, like commoditized problems, like authentication, for example, and whatnot. And you're actually working on the problems that generate value for your users, and you stay like hyper focused on that, because that's where adoption happens and the stickiness happens. And I say that because I have to constantly remind myself of that. And I think, you know, it's super important. And obviously all the developer tools are insanely awesome to use for that, because, you know, a lot of people will be like, okay, well, you can cobble that stack together. You know, for example, like if we talk about Nhost, like, oh, you can cobble that stack together. So yeah, sure, we could, but then we would be cobbling that stack together instead of focusing on actually like so. And then also, you guys are just doing, like, V2 is a good example of it. Like your focus is really strong on this, on putting the stack together cleanly, well, and in an optimized manner. Like if we did it, we would have tech debt on our balance sheet, right? We don't have that tech debt on our balance sheet. We don't have to worry about it. We know it's being optimized constantly, and we can focus on what we want to be hyper focused on. And I would just, like, that's such a big point, big learning thing.
Have you always thought about it that way? Like have you always thought about you know, be hyper focused, and as you say, like engineers, they were maybe sometimes focusing too much on problems, and we want to do everything ourselves. Like what was your journey there. How did you came to that conclusion?
Yeah, we're still going through that journey, right? Because we're constantly trying to always increase the focus. I think just seeing kind of the trade-offs in time spent on different kinds of problems, right? Like if you solve one problem extremely well, and then there's like explosive upside, that's happened a couple of times, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And all those other problems that we solved did not matter, obviously, right? Relative to that. And I think it's just trying to figure that out. And, you're constantly, it's kind of like a game, right? Where you're trying to find the best path forward. And I think it's important to remember that it's a bit of a game where you're trying to find the best problem to solve, right? Not just be really good at solving the problems, but you have to work on the right one. So I don't know. I mean, just trial and error, probably like everyone on the call, right? And paying a lot of attention to the failures, right? Like when you spend a lot of time on a really stupid problem and just constantly reminding yourself of how bad that was, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Dylan. Super nice talking with you. Really insightful answers. If anyone on the call have any questions right now, feel free to unmute and ask them or write them in the chat. It seems like you're working on a super technical product, Dylan. Like I sometimes it's hard to follow exactly what it is, but it's like machine learning, and I guess that's like machine learning and all these data warehouse and pipelines and etc. But
yeah, I will say one thing too. Like, how they always tell you to condense the value of the product into like one sentence or like 2 sentences. The one thing I'll try and say is like there's a book, Systems Thinking. It's a really good book. In that book, they have like a psychological example. So the book states that like the 2 largest influencers of human behavior are information flows and incentivization. And then they give an example of that by this study that they did, I think in Scandinavia, I'm not sure which country, but they basically were trying to see if they could change like energy usage in family houses. And they just moved the thermometer up into the main hallway of the house. And then in the control group, they didn't, and the thermometer was normally in the basement. And the houses where they moved the thermometer up, energy usage went down by like 30%. And really, like for go-to-market SaaS, all we're doing is like if they get all their reporting and all their information from Salesforce, then they have the thermometer like deep in the basement of their business. And we're just taking it out and pulling it up and putting it in front of their face and making it aesthetically pleasing, enjoyable,
Yeah, that's a really good explanation. That's really good.
It's still a little long. I need to kind of compress it, I think, but still working on it.
Definitely. No, that's awesome, Dylan. We don't have any questions in the chat, so I'll just thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your story, and hopefully we can help you in the future as well with whatever we're building. That's what we're really trying to do. That's what gets us going in the mornings to help businesses and developers like yourself be successful. I think that's very important. We really try to. It's not, as you say, it's not just about solving a problem, like solving auth, for example. It's about some higher business goal usually that you want to try to achieve.
Yeah, and then you see the problems in between. No, I just want to say too, thank you guys for having this call. I love these calls, and then also I know our team is super stoked for V2, especially seeing it with Stripe, and then having Apollo built in to the Next.js. That's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you guys.
Cool. Thank you. Nice. All right, I think we can officially call this meeting to an end now.